To introduce us, this is Legends of StarCraft. I'm Subsourian. I run the StarCraft wiki. Mark's our podcaster extraordinaire. And today we have the Tychus Findlay himself, Neil Kaplan.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, man. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem. I got to tell you, I turned down a lot of people who want me to... I'm just shutting stuff on my phone. I apologize.
That's okay.
I turned down a lot of people who asked me to do their podcasts, but it's been so long since I've talked about my buddy Tychus that it's like, well, this one's a little different. So let's go ahead and do that.
Yep, and we are coming off of Robert, who also had some thoughts. So we're interested to hear some counter.
Oh, interesting.
From your old buddy Jimmy.
All right.
But to set the stage, tell us about yourself.
We'll see what tales he has spun. What I need to correct, you know.
Yep.
I say that, but I mean, come on, he is StarCraft.
Yeah, he is. So tell us about kind of your career before your voice. What started you into voice acting? Your career, that path.
Well, when I was a little kid, one of my favorite shows on TV was a little something called Copycats, and it was kind of like Saturday Night Live before Saturday Night Live even existed, you know.
Nice.
And without the makeup, so they were all impressionists, you know, doing spot-on impressions. Rich Little was, I believe, an occasional cast member, Marilyn Michaels, and a lot of people don't know, but the actor who played the Riddler, Frank Gorshin, was a fairly amazing impressionist, and he was a regular on that show. Anyway, one of my first memories was they had one sketch that they did, which was essentially celebrity sneezes. You know, like we would think of ha ha achoo. You know, something like that. Or I'm about to blow a gasket. Ha, achoo. You know, something like that. But the one that really stuck with me as a kid was achoo. And of course, it was for anyone Nixon. Under 50. It was Nixon.
Yep.
And that stuck with me. And so for some reason, I tried to do Donald Duck. And it was really bad. It was really bad.
I bet.
It was the back of my throat. And my older brothers did their job and told me it was the 1970s version of saying that sucks. But of course, we know that didn't come around until the 80s. So they said something else. And oddly enough, I learned how to do
Donald Duck, although when I do it, it sounds more like Yankee Doodle from Hanna-Barbera.
You know, because Yankee Doodle was the duck for Hanna-Barbera and had kind of a lower tone, and that's where I fit. Anyway, I'm not going to say to make a long story short because it's already too long to be short. But I grew up doing impressions, doing stand-up. I was the fourth grader in the talent show doing Jimmy Stewart and Jimmy Carter impressions and stuff. And I always enjoyed doing that. And so I started doing stand-up while I was in high school. By that point in time, I'd also started doing some theater. And, let me see. Are you guys hearing me through this?
Okay. Through that.
Just making sure that it's not like off the laptop.
Oh yeah, no, you're coming through clear.
Good. All right. New booth, new setup for me. So that's
great.
Looks fancy. Yeah.
Anyhow, it cost a few pennies.
I could believe it.
Well, my old booth was my walk-in closet in the apartment we have in Los Angeles, and it had great sound. But the house here on the East Coast, not so much. So I had to buy this. That's why it looks so futuristic. Anywho, back to part 2 of the mini series that is How did you get here? So, and every time I did a play, the character always had a different voice. I was the guy who would do Shakespeare, and I did Midsummer Night's Dream, and I play Bottom. So I gave him sort of a Brooklyn-y kind of a thing there, you know? And so that's the way I did it. Because usually I would read through the script, and by the time I got to the end, the character would have a voice that was different from mine. And, you know, it was like setting the top stone of the pyramid first. And so either everything that made up the character was based off of that, or everything came together and then the voice would shift a little bit, you know, as I got to know it. So one thing led to another. I was studying musical theater in New York City, and I met a disc jockey from CBS FM, and he asked me to do some drop-ins for his show. Now, by that point in time, I had already met Mel Blanc, and he gave me the wisdom. And I'll never forget it. He basically I was introduced as an impressionist, and he basically like looked at me and said, "Impressions are for hacks, kid. Original characters. So I kind of gave up doing impressions, although, you know, some things never leave you. So when I met this disc jockey, and my uncle introduced me as an impressionist.
So cool.
And I wasn't gonna say no, I'm not. It's like, okay, I'll pull the old ones out of the hat. And so I laid down stuff for his show. It's a Wonderful Life whenever you listen to Bob Shannon on CBS FM, you know, that kind of thing and whatever. So and I got behind the microphone and went, wait, there are no hecklers here, like being a 19-year-old doing stand-up. And I don't have to memorize anything like when I was doing plays. And because nobody can see me, I can play anything. I can play everything. Because that's, other than dancing, that's what I was brought up to do, is I should say everything but dancing or playing an instrument. So, but yeah, it kind of was really cool, you know. So I could, I mean, I'll never forget when I was introduced at BlizzCon, and one of the comments online was, "Who's the twerp
Who
playing
he looks
Tychus?"
nothing like Tychus.
And it's like, I mean, you know, who's going to read an insult like that and go, "Yay,
Yay!"
me."
Yeah,
It shows,
you know?
it shows you you got a powerful voice. That's
like goal.
As our friend would say, damn right.
yeah. So before we dig into StarCraft, the one thing from your bio that did interest me, you did a talking toy for Randy Savage and a Care Bear. Like, how is there
not exactly the same, you know. They were different. They were totally different toys there. You know, I don't want you to think like it was some macho man kind of a Care Bear there, you know.
Yes, different toys. Though that would be a good Care Bear. But is there like an
Funshine Bear? I want another Care Bear hug. And the interesting thing was, the day I recorded that, because it was just for the toys, just for the Care Bear talking toys, there was the voice of He-Man, the voice of Tallest Red on Invader Zim, who, interestingly enough, did the voice of the Riddler after Frank Gorshin passed away on the Batman 66. So, again, ties things together.
Yeah.
And the voice of Jimmy Neutron.
Okay.
So we were Care Bears together.
I'll have to hunt down those Care Bears. Yeah.
They are tough. The one that I had, the voice box actually died.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Can always make a new one. So going into StarCraft, you before this you had the role of Optimus Prime, which is probably, I'd say, one of your most iconic roles. But going into StarCraft, I know a lot of that team were hardcore Transformers fans. Did that factor in at all? Or?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I mean,
they bring it up.
I mean, I should say, you know, Chris Metzen mentioned it, but that I don't think it had anything to do with my booking the role.
Yeah.
Oh, not necessarily booking the role. I was just wondering if that they brought it up. Or
it did get brought up.
Mm.
But as a matter of fact, at this point, I still think I owe Chris an audio file reading one of his Transformer comics.
I was about to say, yeah, he is now writing
That
for
would be
Transformers.
awesome. That would be absolutely cool. That would be awesome.
But yeah, so you're one of the first person on this who we've got a lot of people from the first game and second game, but you're the first that came in the second game. Did you know about StarCraft coming in, or was this?
I did, because my brother played the original. My brother played StarCraft. I gave up playing video games a long time ago because I suck.
Understandable.
As soon as we got, when it went beyond one joystick to two, and front buttons as well, it was like, oh wait, no, I'm out. I think like the last game that I worked on that I played was probably Star Wars Battlegrounds.
Oh, that's a good one to if you're gonna.
That was on the PC, and I was able to work stuff and whatever, and I hear myself say Roger.
Yeah, and StarCraft sadly on the extreme end of lots of buttons.
Very
no, but I used to go to the tournaments. I used to go to the tournaments and watch the talented players play. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I've been to a few of those. Those are way beyond me.
Yeah. Way beyond me too.
So to start with, I mean, you were the one who did the announcement for StarCraft II. You were the first voice everyone heard, but it's always been said that they didn't really intend when they made that for the Marine to be a special character. When you did that voice, was it kind of cemented you would be Tychus, or were you just going to be that Marine?
The way what I was eventually told, again by Chris Metzen, one day after a recording session, is he said, I don't think I ever told you this, but we delayed the game for you.
That was going to go into our next question.
And I said, excuse me? They said, yeah. Tychus was a much smaller character until we heard that, as he called it, that whiskey-soaked thing. And suddenly it became clear who this character was. I was like, it was literally one of the greatest compliments an actor could hope for, and a whole lot of, I've seen what the internet does when they thought that Robert wasn't going to play Jim. So do me a favor and don't let this out.
Well, even the most ardent critics of Wings of Liberty are like, but Tychus is great, so obviously you did something.
Everybody loves Tychus.
So did you do any of the lines back when in that draft of Tychus being kind of more an unambiguous villain, or was that were you brought in for the rewrite?
I think I did the original test stuff with the actor who, when it was leaked, people freaked out. And
and I remember that it was at BlizzCon. Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the actor's name because I don't want him to get any grief.
That's all right.
But I kind of said, look, man, there's only one thing you should hope for, and take it from me. Somebody who played an iconic role and had a lot of people on the internet not terribly happy about it. 23 years later, things were a little different.
Yep.
And so I would, as I've said about that character, if they want me to come back, the phone won't have to ring twice.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Good.
Optimus Prime is a very cherished character, and to this day, whenever someone new walks in, it's always a war in the comments.
Absolutely. Well,
you're not Peter Cullen. You're not Gary Chalk. Get out of here. It's like,
no, I would, Mark, respectfully, and I love Gary. He's a great guy, but he doesn't even enter the conversation. It's pretty much, you're not Peter Cullen.
No, I agree.
As somebody who has played 3 of his characters, or three characters that he's known for. I don't mind being known as the Budget Peter Cullen, because of course that's how he sounds now. But you can hear me as Optimus Prime, obviously on Robots in Disguise, but you can also hear me as Venger, the character he played on Dungeons and Dragons, because they wrote a final episode that wasn't able to be animated for the original show, but they did a radio play of it for the DVD release. And so the producers knew they couldn't afford Peter, and so they gave me a call, and I came in and played Venger on that final episode.
Nice.
And of course, there was an educational video game once on which I provided the voice of Eeyore.
Nice.
And I always tell people at conventions, Eeyore is just a really depressed Optimus Prime.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He absolutely is. Yeah,
I could hear that.
That's okay, Megatron. You can take over the world.
Oh, bother. Now I won't. Now I can't unhear that.
Speaking of impressionists,
yes,
I will say, and I don't know if I want to do it, but I will say I did your Tychus all the time as a kid. Yeah, I did it all the time. It was my favorite voice ever. I loved the character and I loved the voice. I was like, damn, Jimmy, I love that voice. I would do it every day to my friends. And
well, hopefully it made you very popular.
Kind of, yeah. Everyone kept telling me it's hard to understand you when you do that voice. So I'm like, sorry, it's a hard voice, man, for me.
So
you're
someone who's been around the industry a lot and seen obviously deep into a lot of media. But what inspirations from other shows or plays or acts did you pull from Tychus or to make Tychus? Or what
inspired you for the vocals?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Just a bottle of whiskey.
I read. I was brought in to work on the previs stuff. They wanted somebody with the guy who was directing it. Knew he needed a big voice, a deep voice, a larger voice, and he knew what I did. So he brought me in, and I was like,
came out.
That's just what happened.
Okay. It's just what came out when you read. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then they sent the auditions out for the game. So it's like, wait, you mean I'm not staying? And they said, not necessarily.
We don't know.
And so I had to audition for it, and that's when they decided they were bringing Robert back. And fortunately, I was able to keep the role.
Yeah.
So speaking of Robert, we'll get into I know the sticking point is you two disagree on the ending, where Robert says he was just quicker on the draw, but I know you have a different view on.
He's wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong.
So let's hear your take.
It's simple. He's wrong. He's wrong. I love him.
I
but
actually
he's
agree
wrong.
with your take, but
because as I say it is, do you know why Jim Raynor shot Tychus J. Findlay? Because he let him.
He let him.
I think another
you let
one.
Him. You got to understand. You got to understand. Tychus goes in there ready to shoot. Okay. He was ready to kill the Queen of Blades, have his best friend be upset with him. But let's face it, he'll get over it. He'll understand that we just saved the galaxy. But Tychus was not prepared to see what Jim believed or knew he was going to see, which was Sarah Kerrigan.
Tychus didn't think it would actually work.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. He didn't buy into any of the lore. He didn't buy into any of the story. It was just, I need you to get me there.
Right.
Okay? Because I'm going to do what Mensk is telling me to do, but also I'm going to save my life and get out of this suit, you know?
Yeah.
And so when he saw not the Queen of Blades, but Sarah Kerrigan, he was not prepared for that. And at that stage of the game, he's got two choices: go against everything he believes in and shoot what he feels at the moment is an innocent woman. Okay? She is innocent. She didn't do what the Queen of Blades did. Queen of Blades did it. You know, it's, do you kill Dr. Jekyll for what Mr. Hyde did? You know?
Yeah, sure.
So he's got two choices at that point. And one is get blown up by Arcturus Mengs, a guy that he hates, a guy that he loathes. So it's like, do you want to die at the hands of somebody you hate? Or do you want to go out at the hands of someone you love? And so he let him shoot him. He let him.
I think another interview you said if Tychus wanted to kill Jim, he would have shot him in the back on the way in. And I tend to agree with that.
Or he would have at least, you know, shot him as he was spinning around.
Right,
doing that. Yeah.
Oh, I've got my finger on the trigger of a Gauss rifle. There's no way I could shoot a guy as he's turning around.
Slow motion. Yeah.
Please. I love you, Robert, but you're wrong.
I told Robert my take, but my take is that you're both right in your own way. That's what you're saying is what Tychus went through his head, and what Robert's saying what went through Jim's head.
Sure.
Like that's my take.
Absolutely. But the fact of it is,
Tychus let him
shoot him. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
he didn't shoot to knock the gun out of his hands. What good does that do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't shoot him in the foot. He didn't shoot him in the leg. You know, to disarm him. You know, or get the upper hand.
Yeah.
He let him.
So, and going off of that too, there's the general fan theory just based off of Tychus's progression as a character that he didn't know that Kerrigan and Jim were chacked up. He didn't know the plan was to save Kerrigan. And there's a general theory that when he took the deal, he didn't know that it was going to involve betraying Jim. Did you kind of subscribe to that as the character developed, or was that your...
I don't think so. I think he looked at it as, we've been through so much. When I save the galaxy and give him credit, that it'll smooth anything over. You know, it's just a girl, Jimmy. Come on now.
So many more out there.
Yeah. Gotta be at least 7 billion choices out there, brother. You can do better. Not necessarily better than Trisha Helfer, but that's a whole different story.
That's its own.
I gotta tell you.
Trisha's cooler than Kerrigan.
As I was a big fan of her in Battlestar Galactica, and as beautiful as she is, and as beautiful as she was 14 years ago, she was even nicer.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Even nicer. Oh my gosh. I met her backstage and she was absolutely lovely. Really. And one of my favorite things about that first BlizzCon when we're doing was somebody asked in the audience, what's it like to voice act? And all the voice actors gave their answers. But she basically said, look, when I do Battlestar, I see the walls of the Battlestar. Sure, I see the camera, I see the boom microphone, I see the crew, but I also have the other actor there. I'm also wearing the costume and I've got the gun in my hands. But when I'm playing Sarah Kerrigan, I've got to envision the gun in my hands. I got to pretend. You know, and I'm not working with the other actors, so I don't have anybody to bounce things off of. And it was really nice, you know, back in 2010 to hear such kind words, you know, especially from somebody who was so beloved by a great, you know, amount of the fandom for her work on camera.
Yeah, and especially I know that was the time when voice acting was just starting to get the respect it kind of deserved as a profession. So getting that is
yeah, for sure. I'm very curious to talk to her if we ever get her on here. But
that one would be tough.
I wish you good luck.
Yeah, we're not optimistic on that.
We're not.
Find out who her publicist is, you know?
Maybe I can find that.
Let me share. Well, actually, so okay, when we talked to some of the old Blizzard devs, they also mentioned that in the earliest drafts, and this might have been before you, but maybe you heard some, that in Heart of the Swarm, the Zerg expansion, they had planned to bring Tychus back as an infested, like, zombie Terran. Did you know anything? I know you did the skin for Heroes of the Storm where you did that, but did they fly that by you?
Nope. Nobody mentioned it. You know, Chris has teased, you know, over the years that there's a prequel out there. So I hope they do it while I still can play the part.
We'd love to,
awesome.
But we'll love to have you back.
But I mean, for those of your viewers who don't know, and I don't know if I'm going to blow any future questions, but at that BlizzCon, there was a booth from the company that does the StarCraft books and the StarCraft audiobooks. I don't want to mislabel them. I want to say Penguin. But...
It's Penguin, yeah.
Oh, thank God. I got it right. Yes. So I went up to the desk because there was the huge banner for StarCraft II. No, not for StarCraft II, for a little something called Heaven's Devils.
Heavens, yep.
And it had Tychus on the front. And I said, are you guys going to do an audiobook of that? And the lady went, yeah. And she was like distracted doing other things. I said, because I'm a voice actor. I'd love to read the book. I'd love to be the narrator. Oh, that's nice. I said, because I do his voice. Sure you do. And I leaned over and right into her ear, I went, hell, it's about time. And she literally like bounced about 18 inches off the ground and said, yes, you are. And I got the job.
Nice.
It was one of their first audiobooks too, I think.
And unfortunately, we've never done the sequel, Devil's Due, written by Christy Golden.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm still holding out hope that we will. Interestingly enough, I read other StarCraft books, including I Mengsk,
Liberty's Crusade, another good one.
Well, but the fun thing about I Mengsk was, you know, was channeling our good friend out there, you know, and just giving you my best James with war is coming.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. It's almost like I did impressions at one point in time.
I liked you did a good Edmund Duke in Liberty's Crusade. That was probably that Southern drawl.
That was also great. I will say the minute you got in, I was like, oh gosh, I could hear it. I could hear the hours and hours of that voice. I've heard that voice a billion times because I've listened to all 4 of those audiobooks a billion times.
Right on. And I don't remember the name of the one that it was from Zerg perspective, Protoss perspective.
Shadow of the Xel'Naga, yeah.
You know, one of my happiest moments as an actor literally was like going on to Audible, I think, and reading through some of the reviews, some of them not so nice, but one of them picked up on what it was that I was doing because I read the 3 different sections in 3 different styles. Mm-hmm. So the Protoss had a different energy than the Zerg sections, which had a different energy than the human sections, you know? So you just might have to go back and re-listen.
I'm gonna have to do that.
I'll do it now. Yeah.
I guess I'll jump ahead to the book section too. So, what did
Sorry.
did your history as an impressionist like give you kind of a leg up over other voice actors? Because you can, like, with an audiobook, you have to do like 10 characters in the same room, all with a different voice. Or is that something?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I mean, I have probably the most common detraction that people write about my audiobook work tends to be, he doesn't sound like a woman when he's playing women. And it's like, there's really only so much I can do.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to play their heart and their soul. I'm really not trying to do the voice.
I've read a lot of audio, or I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. Trust me, you're doing fine with that. There's so much worse when it comes to old British men doing women.
Yep.
There's only so much that we can do, and that's just what has to. And then I did a book series. I Am Number 4, and with some of those, they decided that they wanted to have a woman reading some chapters and a guy reading some chapters, and so the common criticism that I get there is, well, when they're doing the same character, they don't sound the same. We didn't plan anything. The directors, I usually say, if you hear good voiceover, it gives a lot of the credit to the directors. And if you hear bad voiceover, give a lot of the blame to the directors. Because if they don't tell you stuff like that, how are you going to know? How are you going to do it?
Yeah, they're the ones who guide us.
That actually leads me to a question.
All right.
So besides Tychus, you're credited as the Reaper and the Vulture.
The Reaper, man. Yeah, I'm the Reaper, man. I basically had him sounding like if Optimus Prime lived in San Francisco in the 60s, and wasn't quite as mechanical as you might think, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yep, I was the Reaper man.
You're the Reaper man.
So,
I love him.
So StarCraft didn't credit many of its voice actors, which is part of the reason we started the show, was to try to get it straight. But you're kind of credited as, in some places, the Vulture, Goliath, and the Herc. Do you know anything about those, or like those are? Oh, okay.
Never heard of any of those.
I've heard of them. I mean, those words ring bells, man. But see, part of the problem that we have is if I do a play, I've got to memorize the lines, and so they're stuck somewhere in here. If I do a movie, if I do a TV show and memorize the lines stick with you. But when you do voiceover, you go in, there used to be a music stand. Now there's just a monitor. And you just read the words and move on. Read the words and move on. And that's why a director is so important, because a lot of times I won't see the scene. I'll just see my lines. And so it's up to the director to really help me get into the right headspace so that I'm doing the scene appropriately, And obviously Andrea Romano is a legend in the industry.
Yes.
Look, I got lucky. I got to work with her on 2 projects, and I believe both of the projects I was on board before they brought her on board. So she was stuck with me. And both were 2 of my favorite things to work on, StarCraft and Voltron, Legendary Defender.
I didn't know she was on that one.
She directed most of the episodes. Yep.
Nice.
Cool.
So if it wasn't those guys, do you know who you did voice in Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void? Because you're credited as additional voices.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go with what you guys wrote.
Okay.
I definitely know the Reaper. Okay, because I just remember the Reaper, man.
It is an iconic one. But yeah, we're trying to get everyone credited correctly because the game sadly was not the best on that.
But asking me what I did 16 years ago.
We figured that if there was anyone to ask.
I know. We should have all written this stuff down. You know, I mean, I've done some work in anime, and go to some conventions due to a lot of those credits, and people ask me about my early stuff, and it's like, I have no idea. I went in, I read, I left.
Once your IMDb hits a certain point, I understand.
No, this was early on. This was early on. It was just because it's like, you know, because of the nature of anime and video games doing line by line, it just doesn't necessarily stick to you like doing a scene.
Yeah,
you know?
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you? I want to go back to Infested Tychus for a second.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you like the idea of Tychus coming back as infested, or would you prefer if he stays dead or whatever?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because they already explored an infested major character with Sarah. You know, so what would the purpose have been?
Yeah.
You know, if he's got a strong story, then absolutely, I'm all for it. And for Heroes of the Storm, where they did do that, you know, and that fits, that was the only time I have ever lost my voice.
I was about to
some work.
I was about to ask, did you actually get that gargle? Because boy,
there were no special effects on that.
Oh man,
that was all me.
Oh,
I remember listening to those back in the day, and I'm like, oh god,
and a very sad
must have
too.
hurt. That must have really hurt doing that.
Yep. No, it basically when you're in the booth, there's this thing called the talk back button that the engineer pushes so that the folks in the control room can talk to you and be heard. Okay. So the director was telling me what was going on, and the engineer forgot to take his finger off the talkback and said, now we're going to do an effect in post, right? And I just went, whoa. Why don't you wait and hear what I do first? So, I mean, I took it as a personal challenge.
That's really cool.
And came up with that thing and did it and destroyed my vocal cords for a day. And that's when I found out that when you do Donald Duck, the sound doesn't come from here. The sound comes from here.
And you had to come back for that too, right? Because to do additional voices for that skin, or was that all in one?
I think we did that all in one shot.
Oh, okay.
I think that was all in one day. We might have come back and done some straight lines, you know, like the, you know, I need this, like I need another hole in my head.
Yeah, because I know they added more. You came back for other skins like the summer Speedo skin.
Oh, well, that was a blast.
Oh yeah, that one was good.
That one, yeah, that was summertime.
I still love that.
We had a good
that
time
VHS
that
video. And so you also came back for co-op missions as Tychus with a whole commander. Were they? It's always been a mystery. Are they economical in terms of like we're bringing you back for co-op? Also, do a bunch of Heroes of the Storm lines, or have you just been brought back in multiple?
No,
times?
those would kept those. I don't think we ever did them both at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was always a big mystery because the second,
or if we did, somebody owes me money.
Yeah.
All right.
Because StarCraft would have a character thing, and then Heroes of the Storm would have the same voice appear in that game. So we were always wondering, like, are they just doing this in the same booth the same day? So apparently not.
I'm gonna assume it went in like in the same couple months or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like, it came out at the same time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the early to mid 2010s, you were probably doing Tychus like 20, 30 times a month, maybe. I don't know.
No.
I meant to say year, not month. I
don't even think it was that much.
They would
usually save up until they had enough material to really, you know, take economic advantage of doing as much as possible, you know.
Right.
That
Like,
makes sense.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is like, do they do short sessions or do they do like 4 or 5 hour sessions?
Well, they're not supposed to do more than 4.
Oh, okay.
So it would usually be scheduled for 4, but we'd be out in 2 or 3. You know, that's just how you have to do it. You can't schedule for somebody to be on top of their game.
Yes.
Because
That's
if you
true.
do, I mean, there was one session.
Okay.
There was one session. And I was extremely sick. I mean, like I went down, I left my apartment. I went down to my car. I think I sat there for like a half hour before I worked up the energy literally to start the car. And I drove to the, to where we were recording that day. And, took a while to gather my shit, get out of the car and kind of go, all right. But the greatest thing about Tychus Findlay is you could stay up till 3 a.m. drinking whiskey, get up at 7 the next day and nail it.
Just the character.
So that helped. So I literally like went to the booth, did my stuff, and then went out to my car and literally like waited another half hour before I could start the car again.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, I was in bad shape. I was in bad shape, but it was like nailed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed which lines you did with 6. So
Yeah. I wouldn't either. Yeah.
So to jump to, you also starred in an episode of Love, Death, and Robots, which is the Suits is a great episode, but it's been compared because it stars you and 2 other StarCraft alum in a very StarCraft story.
I don't think it gets compared to StarCraft because Courtney Taylor and I are in it.
Well, that's on top of the whole.
That's just an icing. That's icing.
But I was wondering
if
you knew that wasn't because with everything else that was an intentional kind of pull or just happened.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, Henry Graves had a completely different voice.
It's true.
So they didn't ask me to do Tychus.
The Courtney Taylor, you definitely heard that hammer.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Oh, that's Hammer. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here Googling in the background. Who the fuck is Courtney Taylor?
But Robert mentioned that a lot of you kind of like he keeps up with you and James and all that. Do you have have you all kind of kept in touch after StarCraft or?
No, that's not how it works. I mean, I'm still friendly with Dave Fenoy.
Yes.
Of course. And had the great pleasure on the previously mentioned Voltron, legendary defender. One of the stars of that show playing Shiro was none other than Josh Keaton. So one of my favorite things about doing Voltron was being in the booth and working with Josh. He one day it struck me while listening to him because he's played Spider-Man, he's played the Green Lantern, he's played Shiro, the lead, he's the lead heroic character in Voltron. And it just struck me one day listening to him because I was hearing it more there than in Valerian. But he just has this quintessential hero voice where it's like, that's what a young hero should sound like.
It definitely.
Yeah, he voiced young Hercules in the Disney movie.
Yep, he sure did. Speaking of young heroes.
Did really good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So to jump to books, Christy Golden, who did a bunch of Tychus related books, always cited Tychus as one of her favorite.
One, I think.
Right? 2, Flashpoint. Flashpoint-ish. Flashbacks, but Tychus is a major part of it, even if he's dead. But Tychus, she has always said Tychus was her favorite character of the setting to write. Did you ever get to talk to her about the character, or?
Oh, we talked about it like when we first met.
Okay.
That she, again, another great compliment where she said Tychus was really easy to write because I just kept hearing your voice. And I was like, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
so nice.
It
really was. It was very nice. And just kind of still to this day, I my fingers are crossed that somebody will say, you know what, we need to do Devil's Due.
That would be nice. There's a mystery of a lot of the audiobooks because there's a few. Yeah, that one we really want recorded.
There's a few that we've heard were recorded, but were never released.
But that one, we haven't heard on. There's a few others because I know they brought you in for a lot of the even non-Tychus ones. Like I'd love to hear you do Speed of Darkness or a couple others. There's good ones out there. There's plenty left.
I'd be happy to. I've had a good time every time I've done one of them. You know?
I remember about a year or two ago, I asked you, I think on Facebook, I asked you, like, can you do them? And you're like, go ask them. And then I remember I spent the following 3.5 hours looking up who to ask and trying to find who to ask. And I just got the dead ends. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck
Don't give up. Don't give up. Because I'm telling you, you know, if they hear from the consumers, that's a heck of a lot more influential for me than hearing from the part-time employee.
Yep.
Well, you guys in the audience, you guys all message Blizzard as well. If they hear from more than one guy, always be polite. Don't spam them. I just realized that might be what it comes up as. I'm not telling you to spam them.
No, but we know it's even better. Do the old-fashioned thing and write a letter.
You
know their address. You know
that's true. We can know their addresses.
Slip a politely worded letter in the mail because not many people do it, and so it tends to represent the opinion of a lot of people.
Yeah,
you know, I was one of those dorky kids back in 1977 writing letters to Paramount saying, this Star Wars thing is neat, but where's our Star Trek? And we got it. But you write to Blizzard, but more importantly, I would think, is write to whoever is doing their audiobooks these days. Is it still one, or is it a different company?
That I'm not sure. I know the department that managed that got pretty gutted, but
I
used to have contacts there.
I'm still gonna keep looking. I'll keep looking, that's for sure.
I appreciate. Yeah, well, we definitely love to hear your voice again on there. So.
I would love to hear your voice just in general, man. Tychus is awesome, like I said before.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Looks like we've got just a couple of minutes left. So
I was going to do one last final one.
Final question.
Well, one last before because the final one's a quick one. But that's all right, Mark.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Has the audio? You did a lot of the audiobooks, which kind of went much deeper into Tychus's backstory and character. Did that impact your playing him later, or like change how you interpreted his role?
I don't know if I really did anything after the book.
Kind of. I mean, the co-op commander, the heroes.
Yeah, but at that point, the character's established.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
They give you more insight, maybe.
Into the character, sure, but a lot of those things didn't necessarily come into play into the later stuff that we were working on.
Makes sense.
That's fair.
Cool.
Because he's
all right.
fairly well established, and you're not really dealing with material that's designed to delve into his character as much as to further the story, to further the adventure.
Well, with co-op, we definitely the big complaint was, well, we wanted more stuff from the book, the Heaven's Devils book, because they brought back the Heaven's Devils. But alas, I've talked the depths.
I found Heaven's Devils to be interesting more from the standpoint of like learning about the fire bats.
Oh yeah. The history of the Confederacy. Yeah,
you know, and finding out about more of the stuff that we encountered within the game.
Yeah,
and giving a backstory to a lot of that, to the equipment, to the NPCs, as it were.
I wish they coordinated with IMAX, because they did this masterful backstory for the fire bats, and then IMAX says, "Oh, they were 10 years earlier too." It's like, oh,
it's like, no,
I gotta do my Star Trek.
Writers aren't contacting each other. Why?
Well, anyway, I'll let you finish up, Mark. Thank you so much, Neil.
All righty.
Thanks, Neil. Last question: what's your favorite race in StarCraft and why?
Are you kidding me? Is this an actual question?
It's the exact same thing Robert said.
Yeah, it's the last one we ask everyone, and everyone's like,
What the hell? Why would I pick something I ain't? That's just stupid.
well, you were a Zerg for a time.
Not that I wanted to be.
Well, that's true.
Oh, you
Nah,
can
brother,
tell.
come on.
that
Look.
doesn't like it.
Look, the fact of it is, if you're asking Tychus J. Findlay, there's only one answer. Terran. And the reason is something I can't tell you while the children might be watching.
Nice.
Love it.
Love it. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
My
This was
pleasure, guys.
fantastic.
It was fun for me as well. I appreciate it. Thank you for let me. You know what? Hold on one second. Let me go see if somebody wants to say hello. Hold on.
Oh, let's see.
All right. Ooh,
I'm gonna bet it's the Tychus statue.
Tychus.
Putting money, it's the Tychus statue.
If he has a Tychus statue.
Ah, there he is. It's the sideshow Tychus.
Now I'm gonna have to spend 7 more hours putting the gun back in his hand.
I was about to say I have that exact one, and it is a pain to
can't
pose.
hear you.
Heroes.
Don't have me cons on.
Oh, right. Yeah, when you said you put the gun back, I have that exact one, and it took me forever to pose. So.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But
Right,
you know
right.
why? You know why? Because they're telling you,
Never, ever, ever take it out of the box.